Hello, welcome to a telecast, our first telecast of OCD Thought Criminal. This is, similar to that Sean Wilbur essay, Dad, don't blame anything on man, just can't quit. Um, and frankly, the amount of books I have is a little bit ridiculous at this point. But it's thankful to everyone, my parents, my friends, for helping me be able to do this. Um, as you can kind of see with the cheeky kind of word verbiage, I'm playing around with the whole idea of like thought criminality or thought policing and OCD and radical left and anarchist politics. So, if you look at the first book here, The Moral Psychology of Disgust by Nina Schoringer and Victor Kumar. Does felt disgust predict moral judgment? 57, page 57. What disgust does and does not do for moral cognition. Disgust and morality are very linked in our culture. As you can see by, post-COVID society, the Epstein files, the you could say everything that's happened in politics is quite unimaginary, and it's becoming more and more and more so how people have been changing, how people have been adapting to these kind of material conditions. Another very, very key book is A Philosophy of Dirt by Ollie, it's a European name, Liga Spetz. If you were to go on OCD UK, a history of OCD, you will see this very interesting term by Sigmund Freud called obsessive neurosis. And you do find obsessive neurosis back here in this book. If I was to go to which page? Yes, Taboo, Obsessional Neurosis, and The Beast Inside. Having consolidated his psychoanalytic movement, Freud made increasingly bold excursions into the domain of cultural history and social analysis, with Totem and Taboo first published in 1913, followed later by Civilization and Its Discontents, 1930, and Moses and the Monotheistic Religion, 1938 to 9. He embarks on the then ongoing debate concerning the foundations of social life and morality, themes that kept his fantasy occupied in his later years. Like Durkheim, he seized upon the idea of, in a Stirnerian sense, the ambivalence of the sacred. Both sacred, consecrated to the gods, and uncanny, dangerous, forbidden, unclean. We don't have the book right here, but another classic is Mary Douglas's Purity and Danger, and the word sacre in other, I can't remember what language it was, but it translates to restriction, interestingly enough. Another key book in this is, or maybe any of his books, but James C. Scott, The Art of Not Being Governed, where he talks about the Zomia, the quote-unquote invasive species, the hilly tribes to the paddy grain agricultural states, and how the state's narrative about civilization versus the barbarians, as they put it, or the uncooked ones, as they put it, the raw ones, is quite a biased framing of reality. And he talks at length how these things they still make their way today in how race and ethnicity are often state categorizations and distinctions, distinctions a key word, used to play populaces against each other and used to create not just the invasive outside and the other, but the civilized ones, the public law-abiding citizens, similar to like Peter Gelderloos. He talks about Hadrian's Wall and talks about the Chinese Wall, and how in statecraft we always get told that these walls are built to keep the, well, in Rome's case, the increasing barbarian front out, but they don't tell you that they're actually made to keep you in. And it's just an increasing expanse of more and more and more barbarians. The word barbarians, barbarians, because to the Romans, it just sounded like the others were just saying barbar to them. So I guess that shows what they thought of them. Another book is Friedrich Nietzsche's On the Genealogy of Morals. I have not got into Nietzsche yet, but I have friends who have. And of course, with his links with like Foucault and other thinkers, maybe like Max Stirner, even though he denies having read him that much, that would be quite interesting for moral scrupulosity, OCD, and even a lot of ways of kind of conceptualizing politics now that kind of repackages good and evil kind of thinking, even if it doesn't mean to. And then we have a coloring book, OCD, Order, Chaos, and Control, a therapeutic coloring book. This plays at the OCD stereotypes of OCD being about order and things looking nice. If you saw my room anytime during like 2021 to maybe like sometimes still now, it doesn't always look that nice. But here you can kind of see some of the coloring. Haven't done it yet, but yeah, so moments when the need for control meets the unpredictability of life. Each page in this book invites you to pause, breathe, and turn that energy into creativity. Another book here we have is Purity and Contamination in Late Victorian Detective Fiction. So this is quite straightforward. The terms, even on the title, arrest or dirt and cleanse everything by using Hudson's soap reward, purity, health, and satisfaction by its regular daily use. Quite interesting, and sometimes I do wonder, like Victorian era kind of morality and chastity and purity culture, if it has made its way back, or perhaps it's never left. Sometimes, there's questions I sometimes wonder if it's like a cyclical way of viewing stuff, like we have a cyclical nature of reality in a sense. So this one, Transforming Contagion, is another book in the repertoire. Radiophobia, and there was one, and I had to talk to my therapist about this one, about why they always keep talking about this topic. The Cult of the Penis. They're not always the most respectable writers, but it's very fun. And closer to home, Cleanliness is Next to Godliness, an archaeological perspective on the influences of Victorian values in citywide health in Parramatta, New South Wales. So they talk about many such things like distinctions and how, like, you know, of the different classes and what was associated with different classes, whether like smoking was associated with like lower classes or whatever. and it also talks about like, yeah, like rubbish deposits, social classes, things like class, legal barriers, distinctions, gender, race, are all very prescient in these kinds of writings. And it's very, as one of my comrades said, deeply ingrained perhaps into our psychology. So, and this one, Culture of Cleanliness. This is one of those ones I just got recently. It's been on my list for a while. It's very fun, the rabbit holes one can go down. Concerned about sanitation during a severe bout of plague in Milan, Leonardo da Vinci designed an ideal clean city. Leonardo was far from among his contemporaries in thinking about personal and public hygiene. Douglas Biao shows in the culture of cleanliness in Renaissance Italy, a concern for cleanliness, he argues, was everywhere in Renaissance. Anxieties about cleanliness were expressed in literature from humanist panegyrics to bawdy carnival songs, as well as the visual arts. At another, he finds, at one, he finds the topic permeated Renaissance culture. At one level, cleanliness, he documents, was a matter of real concern in the Renaissance. At another, he finds issues such as human dignity, self-respect, self-discipline, social distinction, and originality were rethought as a matter of artistic concern. The culture of cleanliness in Renaissance Italy moves from the clean to the unclean, from the lofty to the base. Bao first examines the socially elevated, who defined and distinguished themselves as clean, pure, and polite. He then turned to soap, an increasingly common commodity in this period, and the figure of the washerwoman. Finally, he focuses on the trains, which were universally scorned. So as you can see, we have a lot of books. I'm what they call a nerd in common parlance. I live and breathe these topics, the interplay between cleanliness and or uncleanliness and criminality throughout history, and how we've kind of seen people who commit crime as being of a lower class. Maybe as we can see in our society now, it might not be that simple, but these are topics I think is very, very useful for an anarchist perspective, for a radical perspective, for an abolitionist perspective, and for just a perspective that I think really can be really good at encroaching the borders between OCD and anarchist communities. I started a subreddit, like most people do, about it, but most of my friends don't go on it. But it's frankly interesting just how many links you can find between these things, just in people's like sayings like wash away your sins, or other things like the link between maybe dirtiness and like morality, between like bad and the concept of dirty, and just other things that I have yet to really go into. But what I have to say is, yeah, it's just fascinating how much you can really do with it. When it comes to OCD, it's to expand outwards to other concepts like maybe chaos and order, mathematics in terms of like arithmomania, like counting kinds of OCD, other things that are related like tics, stress disorders, body dysmorphia, and other things. It's interesting seeing how they relate. Like me, myself, my first kinds of OCD was actually about cleanliness itself. So all I have to say is thank you for listening to my ramble. And I hope to see you guys next time in my next dumpster dive into the dirt. Thank you.